are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing the series review, New Lands by Charles Fort. As always, you can find everything at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com, and that's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And as far as what's there, that would be all the episodes of the show, links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show, as well as friends of the show, including Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel, and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays whenever she can make it. So for this series, as I did with the first book in here, in this collection here, there will be things that Fort will say in his writing that you and or I do not agree with, and so just be aware of that. Also, there may be things he talks about and describes as being mysterious at the time of writing these books, which is about 100 years ago, that are not so mysterious anymore. And finally, I apologize in advance for mispronouncing any names of people and or places, as words are hard, and not all these words are in English. So with that being out of the way, we can get back to the book here. And here we go. It says, I indicate that in these pages, which are banners in a cosmic procession, I do feel a sense of responsibility, but how to maintain any great seriousness, I do not know. Because still is our subject astronomical triumphs, in quotation marks there. Once upon a time, there was a young man, aged 18, whose name was Jeremiah Horrocks, Horrocks. He was no astronomer. He was interested in astronomic subjects, but it may be that we shall agree that a young man of 18 who had not been heard of by one astronomer of his time was an outsider. There was a transit of Venus in December 1639, but not a grown-up astronomer in the world expected it, because the not always great and infallible Kepler had predicted the next transit of Venus for the year 1761. According to Kepler, Venus would pass below the Sun in December 1639. But there was another calculation. It was by the great, but sometimes not so great, Landsberg, that in December 1639, Venus would pass over the upper part of the sun. Jeremiah Horrocks was an outsider. He was able to reason that if Venus could not pass below the sun and also over the upper part of the sun, she might take a middle course. Venus did pass over the middle part of the sun's disk, and Horrocks reported the occurrence, having watched it. I suppose this was one of the most agreeable humiliations in the annals of busted inflations. One thinks sympathetically of the joy that went out from 17th century Philistines. The story is told to this day by the Proctors and Balls and Newcombs. The way they tell the story of the boy who was able to conclude that something that could not occupy two extremes might be intermediate and thereby see something that no professional observer of the time saw is a triumph of absorption. That the transit of Venus in December 1639 was observed by Jeremiah Horrocks, in quotation marks, the great astronomer, close quotation marks. We shall make some discoveries as we go along, and some of them will be worse thought of than others, but there is a discovery here that may be of interest. The secret of immortality. That there is a mortal resistance to everything, but that the thing that can keep on incorporating or assimilating within itself its own mortal resistances will live forever. By its absorptions, the science of astronomy perpetuates its inflations, but there have been instances of indigestion. See the New York Herald, September 16th, 1909. Here, Flammarion, who probably no longer asserts any such thing, claims Dr. Cook's, quotation marks, lost my spot, discovery, lost my spot. Discovery of the North Pole, in quotation marks, as in, quotation marks again, astronomical conquest, close quotation marks. Also, there are other ways. One suspects that the treatment that Dr. Lescarbault received from Flammarion illustrates other ways. In the year 1859, it seems that Dr. Lescarbault was something of an astronomer. It seems that as far back as that, he may have known a planet when he saw one, because in an interview, he convinced Leverrier that he did know a planet when he saw one. He had at least heard of the planet Venus, because in the year 1882, he published a paper upon indications that Venus has an atmosphere, largely because of an observation or an announcement of his, occurred the climax of Leverrier's fiascos. Prediction of an intramercurial planet that did not appear when it should appear. My suspicion is that astronomers pardonably but fairly had it in for Lescarbault, and that in the year 1891 came an occurrence that one of them made an opportunity. Early in the year 1891, Dr. Lescarbault announced that upon the night of January 11th, 1891, he had seen a new star. At the next meeting of the French Academy, Flammarion rose, spoke briefly, and sat down without overdoing. He said that Lescarbault had, in quotation marks, discovered, close quotation marks, Saturn. If a navigator of at least 30 years' experience should announce that he had discovered an island, and if that island should turn out to be Bermuda, he would pair with Lescarbault, as Flammarion made Lescarbault appear. Even though I am a writer upon astronomical subjects myself, I think that even I should know Saturn, if I should see it, or see him, at least in such a period as the year 1891, when the rings were visible. It is perhaps an incredible mistake. However, it will be agreeable to some of us to find that astronomers have committed just such almost incredible mistakes. In Cosmos, NS482-467, is a list of astronomers who reported, in quotation marks, unknown, close quotation marks, dark bodies that they had seen crossing the disk of the sun. Like Concha, I'm not sure if I'm saying that wrong, Montevideo, November, probably saying that wrong too, November 5th, 1789. Kaiser, Amsterdam, November 9th, 1802. Fisher, Lisbon, May 5th, 1832. And then last one here, Hauzo, Brussels, May 8th, 1845. According to the Nautical Almanac, the planet Mercury did cross the disk of the sun upon these dates. It is either that the Flammarians do so punish those who see the new and the undesired, or that astronomers do, in quotation marks there, discover Saturn and do not know Mercury when they see him, and that Buckle overlooked, that's the name, overlooked something when he wrote that only the science of history attracts inferior minds, often not fit even for clergymen. Okay. Not sure what all that's about, but all right. Whatever we think of Flammarion, we admire his deftness. But we shall have an English instance of the ways in which astronomy maintains itself and controls those who say that they see that which they should not see, which does seem beefy. Quite the choice of word. One turns the not very attractive looking pages of the English Mechanic, 1893, casually, perhaps, at any rate, in no expectations of sensations. Glaring at one, a sketch of such a what is this one? Botanico-pathologic monstrosity as a muskmelon with rows of bunions on it. In parentheses here, English Mechanic, October 20th, 1893, close parentheses. The reader is told by Andrew Barclay, Kilmarnock, probably, I think, Scotland, that this enormity is the planet Jupiter, according to the speculum of his Gregorian telescope. In the next issue of the English Mechanic, Captain Noble writes, gently enough, that if he had such a telescope, he would dispose of the optical parts for whatever they would bring, and would make a chimney cowl of the tube. That's pretty bold, okay. English Mechanic, 1893-2-309. The Planet Mars, by Andrew Barclay. A dark sphere, surrounded by a thick ring of lighter material. Attached to it, another sphere of half its diameter. A sketch as gross and repellent to a conventionalist as the museum freak, in whose body the head of his dangling twin is embedded, its dwarfed body lopping out from his side. There is a description by Mr. Barclay, according to whom the main body is red and the protuberance blue. Captain Noble, quotation marks, preposterous. Last straw that breaks the camel's back, close quotation marks. Mr. Barclay comes back with some new observations upon Jupiter's lumps, and then, in the rest of the volume, is not heard from again. One reads on, interested in quieter matters, and gradually forgets the controversy. English Mechanic, August 23rd, 1897. A gallery of monstrosities. Andrew Barclay, signing himself FRAS, I guess that's an abbreviation, exhibiting, that's a spot, exhibiting, okay, there we go, the planet Jupiter, 6 times encircled with lumps, afflicted Mars with his partly embedded twin, reduced in size, but still a distress to all properly trained observers. The planet Saturn, shaped like a mushroom, with a ring around it. Captain Noble, in quotation marks, Mr. Barclay is not a fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society, and were the game worth the candle, might be restrained by injunction from so describing himself. In quotation marks. So that's the Royal Astronomical Society. Apparently is the RAS. I'm guessing F is maybe French. Not sure. So end quotation marks there. And upon page 362 of this volume of the English Mechanic, Captain Noble calls the whole matter, in quotation marks, a pseudo French Royal Astronomical Society's crazy hallucinations, in quotation marks. List of the so it's fellows of the Royal, sorry, not French, fellows of the Royal Astronomical Society from June 1875 to June 1896. Barclay, Andrew, Kilmarnock, Scotland, elected February 8th, 1856. No, that's in quotation marks. I cannot find the list for 1897 in the libraries. List for 1898, Andrew Barclay's name omitted. Thou shalt not see lumps on Jupiter. So apparently he was taken off the list of fellows there. Every one of Barclay's observations has something to support it. All conventional representations of Jupiter show encirclements by strings of rotundities that we are told are cloud forms. But in the Journal of the British Association of Astronomy, I'm guessing, December 1910, is published a paper by Dr. Downing entitled, in quotation marks here, Is Jupiter Humpy? Okay, in quotation marks. Suggesting that various phenomena upon Jupiter agree with the idea that there are protuberances upon the planet. A common appearance said to be an illusion is Saturn as an oblong, if not mushroom-shaped. See any good index for observations upon the square-shouldered aspect, that's all in quotations, of Saturn. In a French publication, 1889-135, is a sketch of Mars, according to Fontana, in the year 1636. A sphere enclosed in a ring. In the center of the sphere, a great protruding body, said by Fontana to have looked like a vast black cone. That's fascinating. But whether this or that should amuse or enrage us, should be accepted or rejected, is not to me the crux. But Andrew Barclay's own opening words are that through a conventional telescope, conventional appearances are seen, and that a telescope is tested by the conventionality of its disclosures, but that there may be new optical principles or applications that may be, to the eye and the present telescope, what once the conventional telescope was to the eye. In times when scientists refused to look at the preposterous, enraging, impossible moons of Jupiter. Let's see. Okay. In the English Mechanic 33-327 is a letter from the astronomer A. Stanley Williams. He had written previously upon double stars, their colors and magnitudes. Another astronomer, Herbert Sadler, had pointed out some errors. Mr. Williams acknowledges the errors, saying that some were his own, and that some were from Smith's cycle of celestial objects. In the English Mechanic 33-377, Sadler says that earnestly he would advise Williams not to use the new edition of Smith's cycle because, with the exception of Volume 40, Memoirs of the Royal Astronomical Society, in quotation marks, a more disgracefully inaccurate, close quotation marks, catalog of double stars had never been published. If, says one astronomer to the other astronomer, you have a copy of this miserable production, sell it for waste paper. It is crammed with the most stupid errors, in quotation marks there. A new, let me see here. Actually, we don't have time. Yeah, this next paragraph is good size. So yeah, this is fascinating. I've never really looked into the history of astronomy and all the. I mean, obviously, there's politics and all that within all the organizations and all those things. Seems like that happens whenever you get any kind of a large organization going on. But anyway, yeah. So we'll see what happens with these. Finding out the history of these, the drawings of the planets and everything is fascinating too. At least to me. Hopefully, y'all enjoy this series, and we'll keep on going and we'll get through this. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Please be sure to check out all the links in every episode description, and for friends of the show, and especially Ricky and Mike, as I join them on their shows fairly often. And I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.